germaneness. There's also a section in House Rule 11 called changing the original purpose of a bill, and that doesn't quite mean what I think most people think it means. If you look at the precedents on it, basically the only times they sustain that objection is if a bill is headed in this direction and the amendment reverses it or goes in the complete opposite direction from what was offered. So that really is out. Now, that's obviously not the case in this situation. But you're going to see probably a point of order to that.
Who would rule on that? The parliamentarian?
In a real sense, it is the parliamentarian who is reviewing the materials, coming to a decision, and that decision is then announced to the crowd by the speaker. That is how it actually operates. Technically speaking, it is the speaker himself who makes the determination. So, Greasel could say it is germane, and the speaker could say, no, I sustain the point of order and could rule on it, regardless of what the parliamentarian says. I don't know if anybody remembers the days of 2007 when Tom Craddock was kind of under siege as speaker, and they were trying to remove him. He basically ignored his parliamentarian for a month, then fired her and hired somebody else because he didn't want to accept. Didn't want to accept what she was telling him on his position with regard to the power of the speaker's office. So they would announce that ruling, and again, after reading through this stuff and looking at it, I am firmly in the position that it is a reversal of the rules of the House and a contrary to precedent of the House to sustain a point of order on this amendment. It is wrong.
So if he sustains it,
what's the
appeal process?
So let's say he does sustain it. And there's very little to stop, as we saw under Craddock and as you've seen under Strauss as well. There's very little to stop him from exercising the power that he has in ways that are contrary to the rules and contrary to the both language and intent of the law. If he says we sustain the point of order, what that means is basically he's trying to cut off all members from debating or discussing or voting on the amendment. And they would view it as they're trying to protect those members. His job is to protect them from you, from each of you knowing where they stand on some issue that they don't think can pass. And so the next option would be under Rule 1, Section 9. There's a provision there that 10 members can appeal the ruling of the chair. And so there are obviously 10 conservative members there's actually 10 members who are co-authors of the bill. So there are 10 members who can appeal that ruling. The question is there any courage amongst that group of 10 to do anything out of the ordinary to actually force a vote on the issue? And so we'll see. I mean, if there's
Stickland has anticipated those steps.
Right, but it's not a one-man show, it's a 10-man show. And so Stickland can run out on the stage with his microphone, but if he doesn't have a bassist and drummer and everything else, it doesn't really,
Well, he'd have it lined up in advance or he wouldn't do it.
Well, probably, but I mean, ultimately it goes back to this issue. If the point of order is sustained, and it should not be, then the duty is on those members who we can rattle off 10 members who ought to be in the position. There's 18 who already voted against the speaker. There's no reason 10 of those should not have the courage to appeal a wrong and what I would say is tyrannical ruling of the chair. They should be do that. So if they don't, they hold them accountable. Because it would only be described as cowardice. So
I think Strauss knows he's got the votes that it won't pass anyway, the amendment, so not worried about it.
Well, they're not worried about the passage of the amendment. I think they hate Jonathan. A large majority of that body hates Jonathan for making them vote on things and for not going like they're all supposed to. And so there's a healthy degree of spite for anything that he's putting forward. So last week, points of order on the pre-K bill about occupational licensing. They failed to follow the rules on that. They basically rewrote the rule to define a way, profession, and occupation to mean anything more than, teachers, an entire class of people. And so that ruling was made out of convenience. Now, granted, they overruled the point of order there out of convenience. We'll see if they will sustain a point of order out of convenience to avoid having a debate and a vote that members don't want to have. That's what the debate is about. So, anyway, that's my take and analysis on it. I would entertain your questions if you have. Go.
You said on the option where 10 people can challenge the ruling. What if the 10 do that? What happens?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
so 10 members can. That's the ultimate thing, and that's the misnomer is they say, well, the parliamentarian decides the rules, or and then some people even say, well, that isn't true. The speaker does. Well, no. Ultimately, it is the members of the House themselves who define what the rules are, and that's the only way it possibly can be. If you say one guy gets to make the rules, that isn't lawful. You have to have the entire body representing everyone. And so 10 members make the appeal. There would at that point be a 3-minute pro and con, very short 3-minute pro and con debate to say, should the speaker be sustained? The speaker, whoever, and it wouldn't necessarily be Strauss, probably Strauss, but whoever's in the chair at the time would take, step down. Someone else would take the gavel. And no other debate on anything else, no other motions, and for 6 minutes you debate pro and con, should the point of order be sustained. And then it would be put to a vote of the members who would then take vote. And you would see where they stand on kind of this hybrid issue of the proposition of constitutional carry, and which it probably would come down largely on a merits of the issue kind of vote. But it also would be on the issue of, what are the House rules? Are we going to follow the House rules? Are we not going to follow the House rules? And so, that's how it would go. And then whatever the result of that would be. So let's say 76 members, only 74 members say sustain the chair. Well, if that 176 or the other side have said we're going to reverse it, in which case the ruling would be reversed. The body itself would be exercising that kind of parliamentarian function. Any other questions? All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tony.